On today's show, did the Dallas Mavericks just get lucky in a game against the Warriors, or did they finally stick to their guns, change the script, and get a win that they really needed? We'll talk about that and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Mavericks, NBA champions. It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show and making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. The best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day, leave a 5-star review, and comment anything below. Let me know what one thing that stood out to you in the Mavs win against the Warriors as we let it ride. That's right. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use that code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. And joining me, as always, on a post game, whether he's turned this way or he's turned back around, what you got for me, Slightly Biased?
4 straight wins, baby.
We back. We back up. We back up.
I'm thinking I'm back.
Oh, my gosh. They had me in the first half. I was getting nervous when Steph Curry was going to be out, and then Draymond Green was a late scratch. I was like, I've seen this play out.
The Warriors. Got the Warriors on a nice number today on the books.
Seen this play out before. I've seen them lose a game like this before, but the Mavs get the win, 109-99. Held the team again under 100 points. And so I got a couple things we want to talk about today. We'll talk about the Mavs staying big. I thought that was a real interesting thing that happened, and that the Mavs didn't, succumb to a team going small for once. It feels like they also the centers. We'll talk about how the centers played really, really well, and they're not necessarily living and dying by the three because they won a game that they didn't shoot the ball well at all from three. But we got to start here, and we don't know as we're recording this just yet what exactly Luka's status is. But Luka Doncic leaves the game with about 6 minutes to go, and he didn't return. They called it left hamstring soreness. And so his status for the game against OKC on Thursday is probably in question, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with him. We don't know anything about that. But I want to talk about how the Mavs won a game that Luka didn't really play that well in.
Yeah. No, some of the physicality that's allowed to get away with at times, and this has been talked about ad nauseum, that over the last couple of weeks that scoring has dipped pretty dramatically across the entire NBA. And as a result of that, foul calls have dipped kind of dramatically. And you have this reputation as a great defender. Like Gary Payton was being very handsy, and they probably could have called a few things here and there. So the Warriors were doing a pretty good job defensively against them. And, just like the rest of the team tonight, I thought he got the looks that you usually like with Luka. The thing with Luka, of course, is, his shot diet, the degree of difficulty on his shots are so insane that when he misses it, you're like, maybe Luka should take better shots. But then you think about it, you're like, well, those are the shots he always takes. He just usually makes them. So I didn't think it was like it's some weird turnovers throwing the ball off the rim. I didn't think it was like a disastrous game.
Not a disastrous game. And then for Luka, it's not going to be. But for his level, for his expectations, it was a disastrous game for him, right? It's just sort of the level that we expect from him, to have a 30-point triple-double 6 times in a row. It's just like what we expect from him at this point. But I thought early on, especially, his handle was really loose, which just seemed weird to me. The physicality from Gary Payton and from others, I thought definitely, and Wiggins for sure, I thought definitely affected him a little bit. But it was just odd things. Like his handle being loose, I didn't think that's not something we're ever used to. Luka doesn't turn the ball over because he mishandles a dribble. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
He turns the ball over because he chucks the ball 40 feet one way, and then somebody catches it, or it tips off somebody's hand on the way there. This is just not the type of turnovers we're used to from Luka. He only had 3 rebounds too, which is kind of weird to me, but the Mavs played big the whole time. But yeah, you're right about the shot diet. He was shooting the same kind of shots, and really the thing that I praised him for yesterday was how good of a 3-point shooter he's become. Before this game, I'm sure it's not that way now, but before this game, he was shooting better than Steph Curry on unguarded catch-and-shoot shots.
That's actually crazy.
He was shooting 51%, and Steph is at like 49.7 or something stupid. But yeah, he shoots 1 of 6 from 3, and if he hits some of those threes, and that's kind of the story for the Mavericks this whole time. If they hit some of their threes, this game looks a lot differently. But for Luka, he didn't have the greatest game. He didn't have to score 45. Remember that stretch where the Mavs only won games that Luka scored 40 points in? Like, that seems to be gone from this team because they now have other options, and Kyrie led the fourth.
Well, true. And in the third quarter, though, when Luka had a stretch where I think he had like 8 straight points for the Mavs. And that was a stretch of basketball there where they needed that offense because the offense was kind of difficult to come by for most of this game for the Mavericks. And he stepped up in that third quarter. Kyrie stepped up in that fourth quarter. So the Mavericks, I'm sure we're going to talk about this later, but I just pulled up some shocking stats about the amount of threes that they hit in this game despite winning that I'm excited to share.
They did not hit a lot. They went 6 of 27 from 3 total in this game, which is 22%. Do you have the last time the Mavs won a game when they shot 22% or worse?
So when do you think the last time they won a game?
So
despite making 6 or less threes. That's what I looked up. Making
6 or less. Okay. I looked it up in the middle of the game, 16% or lower, and it was 2012 or something like stupid like that.
So
6 threes. I'm gonna go 2 years ago, the Western Conference Finals run.
They have never done it in the Luka era.
It never.
No, this will be the first time in the Luka era they win a game making 6 or fewer threes.
Where's a book? I need a book.
That.
Do I have a book somewhere? Does anyone have? They're turning the page. They're turning the page.
Basketball changes so fast. They had a 3-week stretch in 2017 where they did this 4 times in wins.
Where they made less than 6 threes. Well,
yeah.
I just recently did a video project for the Free Dawkins channel where I went back to look at the 2011 Mavs-Lakers series, and they're like, oh, my God, the Mavs are making so many threes, and it was like 7.
Yeah, that is
just like
funny.
A ridiculous dichotomy between the basketball I'm looking at now and then this series where, like, the Mavs were so hot from 3 and they went, they made 11 of 30 or something like that from 3. And you're like, oh, they can't overcome this. But for the Mavericks, that's sort of been their story too, is that they've been living and dying by the 3 for so long that if they didn't hit threes, then they just didn't win the game. And in this game, they shoot 16% from 3 forever, and then they finally start hitting some threes. I mean, when did they hit when did Tim hit that third 3?
Fourth quarter, right? I mean, they made
3 of 20. Luka hit a transition 3 with 4:35 left, and that was their third 3 of the game. In the third quarter. So there was only 4 minutes left in the third quarter when they hit their third 3, which is just insane that this team got away with a win like that. But it's because they have different options now. Luka can attack. They hit the bigs a lot too. In this game, we knew the Warriors would play small, and they play even smaller since Draymond's not there. With Trace Jackson-Davis and Kevon Looney, they went with Dario Saric at the 5-2, which is essentially their version of Maxey, for lack of a better comp. So they had the bigs. P.J. Washington, I thought, had some good moves, too. Transition, they went out and scored 21 points off of turnovers. The Warriors always turn the ball over, whether Steph's playing or not, and so they took advantage. 68 points in the paint, too. When's the last time the Mavs scored 68 points and it didn't happen to them?
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's you got to give kids some props because we talked about the same thing where it's like,
do I?
All right. You do kind of have to. You got to give some
No,
flowers.
I do. I'm going to. In the second. I have a thing.
All right. I won't step on your toes.
No, go for it. No, go for it.
No, because I'm going to say exactly what we're going to say in the second segment. So then what are we going to talk about in the second segment?
The Mavs.
I've got some new conspiracy theories to throw around.
You have conspiracy? I'm ready for conspiracy theories. That's a do it at the end of the show. The Mavs found a way to win a game that they weren't shooting the ball well. Luka didn't have an insane supernova game, and I think that's turning the script for this Mavericks team. I know there was no Steph Curry. I know there was no Draymond Green. I know that this Warriors team did not have the firepower that we're used to from a different team. They didn't have the obvious advantages over the Mavericks. They didn't even shoot the ball that well from 3 either, 9 of 28. But I think it shows some growth from the Mavericks. It shows they have different options. It shows they have different things that they can. Shows they have different things that they can do, and I think that's positive. I just gave out a sticker to a listener. Shout out to the Raccoon Squad.
Listener. You just heard yourself in the background. You're a celebrity now.
They're always there. Coming up, let's get into the props that we do have to give the kid because I think he made a choice. He's stuck with playing big, and we're going to talk about why that was a good decision coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. All you have to do is go to Prize Picks. It's super fun. You can play this during NBA, especially when there's multiple games going on. I like to do Prize Picks because you pick more or less than 2 to 6 players' stat projections. So points, rebounds, assists. You can do those combined. You can do all kinds of different stuff. Check it out. And they have new different multipliers where now it's demon time on Prize Picks. You can win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. That would be fun if you could just do that anytime that you wanted to. Go check out Prize Picks and see what's available for you, players and stats that you have. And you're playing against projections. You're not playing against somebody else that has like a bunch of algorithms and knows exactly how to play against you. They have a million leagues. They do it professionally. You're not playing against that. You're playing against the projections. So go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and just try it out. Just see what they have there. Prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use that code LockedOnNBA to get a first deposit match up to $100. You put $10, they'll match you $10. If you put $20, they'll match you $20. Put down $100, they'll match $100. So check it out. Prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, like that guy over there that just ran up to me. Appreciate each and every one of you for sticking with me and Slightly here. We've got a daily show that covers your team every day, Locked On Sports Dallas. If you want to check out all the many things the Cowboys are doing in free agency, sarcasm, you can go check out Locked On Cowboys on the Locked On Sports Dallas stream on YouTube and on Amazon Fire TV. All right, Slightly.
I wish you could combine like the Mavericks' deep desire to go out and get free agents with the Cowboys' ability to get any free agent they want if they wanted to go out and do it.
Yeah.
But I gave up on them. I gave up on them.
Yeah, you did. You have given up. You have given up on them, and several of you, I think, listening have as well. And several of you listening don't even care about the Cowboys. So
no,
we'll move on. We talked about the choice that Jason Kidd made. This has happened over and over and over again in the Jason Kidd, Luka Doncic era of the Mavericks basketball, where a team goes small, they put out Dario Saric at the 5, they're playing all wings, or they just go all small in general. And Kidd immediately goes, we've got to match it. And so he puts Maxey in, and then they just play into the other team's hand. And the other team has bigger wings, and they just play right into what they want to do, and the Mavs seem to lose those minutes a lot. They used to win them, and it used to be a good, they used to be able to play that really well, but lately they just haven't had the wings to be able to pull that off. And so in this game, the Warriors do that. They put out Dario Saric. They play smaller. They play their wings, Wiggins, Kuminga, Clay's out there, even Brandon Pajemski, Moses Moody, whoever. They put those guys out there, and Kidd sticks to the bigs. It's something that I think I've been talking about in this show for like several weeks now. Just stick to the bigs because you're a big team now, Dallas Mavericks. You are a big team. You have a 7-footer that you can leave out there for 48 minutes, and Gafford and Lively combined for about 45 minutes, which is basically all of the game. And they combine for what? Like 22 points. They combined for 22 points. Hold on. I have it in front of me. 22 points, 14 rebounds, 9 blocks in 45 minutes. And that gamble ended up paying off in the end.
Yeah, I mean, the small ball lineups can work.
Yes.
But they work really well whenever you're like taking advantage of maybe a team like the Suns with Nurkic out there. And it's like, all right, Nurkic, we're going to have you up on the perimeter the entire time, and we're going to force you to defend. Or maybe a team like the small ball lineup I thought worked pretty well against the Cavs because they had Jared Allen and Mobley, and you're forcing those shot blocking bigs outside of the paint. In a matchup like this is where you deploy your size and match up. That's what they did against the Thunder too, and a big reason why they beat the Thunder by whatever it was, 40 points that one time is because they took advantage of a team that didn't have an answer for it, and it worked incredibly well. I mean, Gafford was dominant again. I mean, the stretch of basketball he's putting together is just insanity, man.
5 for 5 again. I didn't even realize it because of everything else going on, but he continues to be. He can't miss.
No.
5 of 5. What is that? 20? Or no, it's like 33, 34.
33. Yeah, 33.
He had 29 coming into the game, right?
Yeah. So I think he needs 3 to tie or break Wilt, whatever the case may be.
Daniel Gafford, if you haven't been following this story, Daniel Gafford had 29 straight made field goals going into this game. And a field goal is when you put the put the ball in the basket. It's not a free throw. Basically, that's what a field goal is. I talked to somebody the other day who did not know what a field goal. Oh, it was my sister who does not care about basketball. I was like, no, field goal is football. I'm like, no, they do. And she's like, but nobody really calls it that. I was like, well, not really, but officially, it is a field goal if it's not a free throw, basically. But
yeah, I can see the confusion.
Yeah, he goes 5 of 5 in the game, 7 blocks. His rim protection, I thought, was a real deterrent and really, I didn't feel like the Warriors really wanted to attack the rim, especially when he was in there. And that's not something that we're used to with the Mavericks, is having somebody back there that's intimidating, that literally changes the shot profile and the shot diet of another team. The Warriors went 17 of 30 at the rim. 17 of 30.
Jeez.
They shot 56%, which is the 18th percentile, meaning that is garbage for another team. So that's absolutely insane. And so, Gafford, I thought his rim protection was great. Lively had some good blocks in there as well.
Well, too, this is what, like a matchup like this for the Warriors, one, they're already kind of small. And with no Steph, they're already kind of pushing it with like Draymond not being somebody you really have to worry about shooting, even though he's been shooting well. But Draymond runs all those dribble handoffs and stuff. So the big has to go out and play because you don't want to leave Steph open. So with, no Steph, no Draymond, this really was a great opportunity for Gafford and for the Mavs bigs to feast because, Trace Jackson-Davis isn't really shooting the three. Sarge can do it, but you're not like overly concerned. Like you're not overly concerned about Kuminga. You're not overly concerned about Wiggins.
I was a little concerned about Kuminga.
Oh, I'm talking about shooting threes. Like Kuminga had
no, I'm not.
But like as far as shooting threes go, so this was a perfect matchup for Gafford, and he feasted. Shout out to Kid for keeping the bigs out there and not falling into that temptation because I know it was there.
He didn't do it. Speaking of temptations, he didn't play Tim that much in this game either.
Yeah. What was it, Tim? 8 minutes?
He played 5 minutes in the first half, 14 minutes overall. Did wow. Timmy? 1 of 5 from 3. Classic.
I mean, it's
with a classic. He waved off Kyrie screen and immediately turned the ball. A standing turnover where he's standing with the ball in his hands, and then he turns the ball over like without moving his feet or his hands or anything.
That was indefensible.
Okay, I'm done talking about Tim. That's all I'm going to talk about Tim today, just because you said temptations and I wanted to make the pun.
No, I didn't even get it. That's a good one.
Temptation.
I should have, but I was watching the Kings and the Lakers. Lakers, you're dead to me.
Pelicans lost, so that's positive for the Mavs.
I worry that that ground might be a little too much to catch up.
It is. It's not. I mean, it's not easy.
Not impossible, but
the other thing is, if the Kings beat the Lakers, let's say this happens, then the Lakers move back, which is positive for the Mavs because you don't want to fall into that 9-10. So it's a positive either way for the Mavs.
That's true.
And the Mavs really just got to catch the Suns, right? Like that's the one that they really got to catch. And then they got 2 games against the Kings to do that. So
yeah, I mean, as long as the Mavs take care of business, this is what I've been saying. But we're getting to the point where it is so tempting to just look at the standings every morning. But if the Mavs take care of business, they will be fine.
Oh, fall to that temptation. Live and die by this, because this is the fun part, right? You do all the whole trades and free agency and training camp and interviews and lineups and rotations and complaining about all this to like make it to a point like this where you're in a run and you're just focused on your team. And there's nothing more fun than the 2022 run because you just lock in on a team, and then that team ended up like fulfilling all of our wants and dreams and more, and we ended up going to the Western Conference Finals. I'm like, if you're like, I don't want to lock in on this team, just do it. It's fun. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing here.
And it's also too like one of those funny things where years past, I'm like, the play-in tournament was just such a great idea. Like it's so much fun. And now I'm like, the play-in tournament is the worst idea that Silver's ever concocted. Get rid of it.
You took the LeBron route?
Yeah.
Where LeBron was
yeah. When was that? Was that during the bubble?
This is a great idea. And then all of a sudden he has to play in the play-in, and he's like, whose stupid ass idea?
Yeah. Yep. I love that. That's exactly how I feel.
So we talked about the bigs. I wanted to point this out about the bigs too with Gafford, is that I have been pointing out that Gafford is amazing against teams that are small, that don't have a lot of shooting. So like your Detroits, your Washingtons, teams like that. Your Bulls, he was great in that game, obviously. But this was the one where he did play well against a team that didn't have a ton of size, but they do have shooting, and they do have a lot of spacing. They played smaller. And so this is starting to prove that he can play against teams like that. I did not think the Mavs' defensive rotations were like great in this game necessarily. I thought there was a lot of like kindergarten soccer, bunching around, running around, trying to figure out where you're supposed to be, and a lot of overhelping, which ended up working for them, which is why I think they got so many blocks. Like PJ Washington got 3 blocks, and I think they were all helping at the rim or running over to somebody. And I think if he doesn't get that block, it turns into a wide open shot somewhere else.
Yeah.
So just a lot of gambles from the Mavericks, I felt like, but 13 blocks. The gambles ended up paying off in this one.
Yeah, I think we talked about it after the Bulls game too. It was like they gave up a decent amount of open looks, so I think their defensive rating might be a little, you might look at that and think they played a better defensive game than they actually did. Not fraudulent, because they did play well defensively, but it wasn't like this elite, defensive performance. But hey, you know what? They were due for some shooting luck regression to the mean there. Like they were due for it, so it's good.
They didn't get their own shooting luck though. They didn't hit a bunch of threes. Let's talk about this team. Let's talk about what else we saw in this game, how the Mavericks got this win, and let's talk about the Mavs and the standings and what's going to come up tomorrow. Coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by Robinhood. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now let's talk about some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024 validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC is a registered broker-dealer. All right, Slightly. Let's talk about this Mavs win. They get a win, 4 in a row. We talked about the bigs. We talked about what we saw from them. I do want to talk about Kyrie because I think he picked his spots well in this game. 23 points on 16 shots, a little bit better. He didn't hit a ton of threes. He hit the first 3 for the Mavs, and it was the only one for 45 minutes. It felt like that they hit. Got to the free throw line 6 times. That's huge. That's huge for Kyrie. But 10 assists. I thought he was letting the game come to him, and I thought he was taking advantage of what the defense gave him because the defense on Luka, we talked about the physicality, and then they were kind of doing similar thing to Kyrie where they're just playing him so tight. And so then they would send help over, and somebody would be open, and I thought Kyrie took advantage of that. 10 assists, great assist and playmaking game for Kyrie.
Not just 10 assists, 9 assists in the second half. So he really didn't, fourth quarter Kyrie, second half Kyrie, didn't really, blow the doors off scoring-wise, but, yeah, he was really good. And I've been thinking, you just watch him play. He's making the right reads. He's taking great shots. It's just we're due for a big Kyrie performance at some point in the very near future. And if Luka's going to miss some time, well, that could be the opportunity there. But, Kyrie just plays good basketball, man. That's really all there is to it.
He does. He just has fit in so seamlessly. I mean, we've talked about this has been the kind of the storyline with Kyrie basketball-wise is that he just fits in and he fills in what the Mavs need on any given night on offense. If they need him to go get a couple of buckets, he'll go do that. If they need him to get 10 assists and play make, he'll do that and give what the defense gives him. If they need him to get 6 rebounds, he'll rise up and grab those 6 rebounds.
I thought he was going to get a triple-double for a little bit tonight.
He got close, two rebounds away. 2 rebounds away from a good game for Kyrie, so it sucks to be him.
That's the Luka scale there.
At the 7-minute mark of the first quarter, he had one of the most insane finishes we've seen from him. The one where he, what was it? Wiggins was on his back, and he flips the ball with 2 hands from the opposite side into the basket. It was like an in-air granny shot from the opposite side of the rim.
I mean, that was crazy. And then that lob he had to Lively. I don't even know how he held onto that ball. I'm thinking of a different play, but he has so many moments where it doesn't feel like he should have the basketball in his hands anymore. The way that how tight his dribble is, it really is. Other NBA legends have said it. There might not be another player in the history of the sport who has the handles that this guy has. And he's at the peak of his power still. I mean, he is. It's in a different way. It's not huge scoring outputs every night, even though, if he was forced to do that, I think he could. But he's, like we've been saying, man, he's just playing some great team basketball. It's awesome.
Well, and he is shooting the ball well, 1 of 5 from 3 in this game. But other than that, he's still shooting the ball well. Also, can we talk about the Mavs? This is like parallel with what Kyrie did. Kyrie shot 50% overall and 20% from 3. The Mavs shot 54% overall and 22% from 3, which just shows like the quality looks the Mavs were getting from 2 in this game and just how well they shot from 2, taking advantage of all that stuff at the rim and the centers and dunking and all that.
That's been what's been really encouraging is the fact that the Mavericks during this little stretch here haven't had a game where they've shot the lights out of the basketball, which used to be how they won games. Like that used to be it. It used to be you have to pick your poison with Luka, and if you're going to help off shooters and our role guys hit threes, we're going to win. But if they don't hit threes, then we're in some very serious trouble. And
then we would sit here and go, they've got to play Christian Wood more. Why are they not playing Christian Wood more?
You don't know how happy I am that we don't even have to talk about enter whoever's name.
We just say lean into Christian Wood more. Why don't they do that? I even got to that point at the end of the season where I was like, you might as well just lean into this live and die by the 3 thing even more if you're going to do that. But this is a different team. PJ Washington.
At the end of the season last year, I was like, who's on the JaVale McGee? Can he stretch the floor maybe a little bit for you? We've seen him shoot. He made a 3 a couple nights ago with the Kings.
Can we just run point JaVale and just see what it looks like?
Yeah. Can we just try something? No, I'm looking at it right now. 69% on 2s.
Nice.
Tonight. That's what, like, their offensive execution has been pretty on point. I mean, even in a night like tonight, I kept seeing people who were like, stop shooting 3s, stop shooting 3s. I mean, they're all wide open. Like, you're never going to, even if you're in a shooting slump, you're never going to be like, hey, guys, don't shoot that wide open corner 3. Don't shoot that wide open top of the key 3.
I thought their first half offensive execution was just so listless. It did not feel like their offense had a lot of purpose to it. Felt like it had a little more purpose in the second.
Well, I thought they got good shots. There was just some bad turnovers here and there and some rough. I mean, they shot in the first half, they shot 77% on 2s.
77.
Like, that's just crazy. That's it. Yeah, it's a lot of good numbers.
Can we just talk about the thing that I'm most happy about with this win?
What's that?
Beginning of the game, I'm sitting here, and they haven't done the national anthem yet, so everybody's warming up, and all of a sudden you just hear a murmur from the crowd. And you go, oh, who just walked in, you know? All of a sudden you just hear the, like, you just hear it, like, somewhere over there. And I look up, and, of course, it's Dirty. 41.
Dirty Dirk.
The legend.
Probably just a
Dirk.
bunch of Patriots excited about the national anthem being sung.
Dirk Nowitzki. Well, around here, you can't joke about that. There are a lot of people that sing. There are a lot of people that sing the national anthem. Oh, I have to finish the Dirk story, then I'll go back to the national anthem. Dirk walks in, and he sits down courtside, and Dirk was there. And every time he comes in and he's at a game, whether he's in a box or he's sitting courtside, you just go, just don't embarrass yourself in front of basketball Jesus. Like, just don't embarrass yourself in front of Dirk. Like, that's all you want for this team, and they didn't do that.
As a player, I feel like that would be, as a player in this league, I feel like that would be a little like.
You just turned into Derek Harper real quick.
Yep. I've always wondered about that, actually, when you see somebody courtside. Now, there's like studies out there. If you're really good at something and there's like a big crowd, you perform better with that type of pressure because your brain just almost shuts off and it just goes into this, all your training comes out. But if that was me out there and Dirk, like if I'm at LA Fitness playing some hoops and Dirk's just like, hey, I'm working out. I just want to catch y'all's game real quick. I love basketball so much. I want to watch this random pickup game. It would be worse than it already is.
How bored would Dirk have to be in life? That was what he was doing. Okay, so the national anthem, though, we mentioned the national anthem. The guy that played the national anthem was on a saxophone. And, like, if you ever listen to jazz music, you know that they don't play the right notes on purpose a lot to, like, you play out to a certain note and then you come back to it, and the resolve makes it feel so much cooler and better. This man played the national anthem on a saxophone, and I think he played 50% of the actual notes of the national anthem, and I think he played 50% of just his own notes throughout it, and it was very hard to follow. So if anyone's actually sung the national anthem today, that is an insane level of patriotism and musicality.
Hey, love to see it. Shout out to that guy. Love a saxophone. Incredible instrument.
Oh, I love a saxophone for the national anthem. Anything that's different, especially if you change it up a little bit. Dante Exum in this game.
Well, I was just gonna ask. Dante Exum was good. But are you 4-game winning streak? Has the ceiling changed or?
No.
Well, what was your ceiling? Was it like
My ceiling was in the middle of the 7-game win streak, I was like, all right, if they're going to continue to execute like this and play defense like this, I think they should win a first-round series. And then after the 5 out of 6 losing streak, I was like, well, if they're going to play defense like this, they could win a first-round series, right? Like, they could get there.
Oh, that's not what I was thinking.
And so that's right. That's what downgraded me there because I just didn't trust their defensive execution. I'm still kind of there because who they won against? Chicago,
Yeah,
Detroit, Warriors without guys. I mean, we're not talking about the Miami was a good win. That was a good win.
yeah.
But you're not talking about these insane. Tomorrow will be an interesting one. I'm really curious to see if Luka plays. And all we saw from Jason Kidd, by the way, I've been sitting here watching on Twitter. He said we'll have a better answer tomorrow. I think that's all Jason Kidd said, unless you saw something different.
No, that's what I saw too. It sounded like it wasn't too serious though, from like just the tone.
The tone of the tweet. The tone of
the tweet. I could just tell from Kid's voice. It just popped into my head. I hear it all the time when I'm going to sleep.
No one's dying.
Yeah, I'm like dozing off when I hear that. Huh, Kid?
What does the OKC game mean? Let's end on that.
I mean, do you want me to be? I'm just going to be real. The way the NBA
be
works,
slightly biased.
The way the NBA works with back-to-backs, if they lose, nothing. If they win, everything. All right, and that's the truth. If they lose, it means nothing to me. Second, I have a back-to-back, 9 p.m. local start time. That's garbage.
That's
by the
right.
way. But
that's right. Yes.
Whatever. Who cares? Means
9
nothing.
p.m. local time in OKC as well. It's not like they're getting.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's terrible. I mean, when they lost 5 of 6, I was looking at the Rockets. I was like, man, if the Rockets go on a winning streak.
The Rockets or the Jazz? Because the Jazz were closer.
Yeah, true. But the Jazz are just trending down. Marketing had an interesting quote. If any of the marketing to the Mavs people, he had an interesting quote.
We could still trade Maxey for him. I know some people didn't want to do that at the time.
Oh, I don't want to speak because I was one of those people, I think.
Yeah, but the Mavs still didn't have a first to give at that time. That was what the whole thing was about it. Like,
yeah,
everyone's like, "Oh, would you give up Maxey for him?" It's like maybe, but they don't have a first, so it didn't matter.
And that was marketing after the Bulls. Like he wasn't even before Cleveland.
Yes, he wasn't good. So
that was a wrong take though.
It was. Well, he obviously proved that wrong. He became an all-star.
I'm not ashamed to admit when I was wrong.
Slightly and I will be back tomorrow for the OKC game, and we'll have you covered for that game. Guys, thanks for listening to Locked On Mavs. Peace out. Boom.